Hello, all, and welcome to the Lowing Brothers podcast, where two North Dakotan brothers tell you our view on what's happening in sports today. Today's episode, we'll be talking about new hires, Army Navy, some NFL games, and our betting locks, and as well as Steph Curry reaching the three-point record. But to start today's show, we have all the new hires from the college football. First one being Lincoln Riley to USC, the Oklahoma coach who has won four Big 12 championships, and has made four playoffs as well in his time at Oklahoma. Jacob, what do you think about this move, Lincoln Riley to USC?
I gotta be honest with you, this doesn't make any sense to me. I understand that Lincoln Riley maybe doesn't want to play in the SEC, but I mean he had a good there. They are a perennial top 5 football team. I understand the money might have been better over at USC. I mean, and recruiting is nicer in California, the better weather, but I think he had it great in Oklahoma. I don't like it personally. I don't blame him for chasing a bag. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I got to be honest with you.
And here's where I come off on this. I initially, when I saw the move, I thought exactly what you thought. But thinking through it and how everything's progressed so far, I kind of like the move. And here's why. Because like you said, Oklahoma is leaving the Big 12 for the SEC. I firmly believe that once Lincoln Riley found out he's moving to the SEC, he wanted out. He wanted to go to a different team. He didn't want anything to do with the SEC because I think he believes how hard it is to coach in that conference and to win in that conference. I think he saw an opportunity of a USC program who's been down for many years but has tradition and has all that kind of stuff that revolves around USC. And I just think he saw that he sees a Pac-12 conference that's not as strong as like the Big Ten or the SEC or things like that, conference that he can come in and take over and just be like he did at Oklahoma, win 4 conference championships, make it to the college football playoffs. I like this move to USC. I firmly do. If Oklahoma was staying in the Big 12 and he left, at that point, I would be surprised. And initially, my thought process of this was, why is he not going to LSU? But I just think it's the same thing. Like, after the weeks kind of came through, my thought process is, I don't think he just wants to be in the SEC. Because from what I saw, LSU offered him an 8-year, $96 million contract. And I guess I don't think anything's been out there, but I think USC, I don't know for how many years, offered him around $110 million. Personally, I like this move for Lincoln Riley. I think he's going to succeed. I think he's going to change that program. I think he's going to bring a lot of players in. I mean, you've seen how he's been able to work with quarterbacks in the past. I think it's a good move, and I think he's going to take over the Pac-12 at USC.
I don't disagree that he might take over the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 is terrible. But I don't know. I just don't like it. I mean, it just, I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think it is. I mean, USC hasn't been good since Pete Carroll. I mean, they've been, and they shouldn't be that bad over that amount of time. I mean, you got a great recruiting base down in Southern California. I mean, if anyone can turn around, it's Lincoln Riley, but I think they're looking at least 3 or 4 years before they're competitive, in the top, before they're a top 5 football team, at least.
No, I agree with that. I don't think next year they're going to go in and Lincoln Riley's going to turn around. They're going to make the playoffs. I do believe that he's going to turn that program around the first year of winning wise. I'd foresee that. I would not be surprised if USC is a top 25 team next year. I'm not saying 10. I'm saying
That's
around
fair.
like the
That's
20-25 range. That's where I see, which is from the past years that UFC has had, that'd be a tremendous stepping stone for them.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that. I just don't understand why you would leave a perennial powerhouse that you built. I don't know. I mean, we can. I don't think there's a big disagreement here. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a bad move to me. It just kind of made more sense to stay at Oklahoma, in my opinion.
Well, USC came out with a great coach right there. USC's got to be loving that they got Lincoln Riley.
I mean, of all the coaches that have been hired recently, they're on the market. I mean, I think I'd have to say Lincoln Riley is probably the best available option.
Oh, no doubt.
He's best offensive mind. He's probably the best recruiter.
And they got their man there, that's for sure. Well, moving forward to our next pick here, we have Brian Kelly to LSU. Now, this is something I don't think a lot of people saw coming. Seeing Brian Kelly leaving LSU. I think it's a great move for Brian Kelly. I think it's a dumb move for LSU because they're taking this guy who's, I'm not sure if you even saw it. You see the video? It was the first time he talked to the LSU fans. He like changed his accent.
I thought it was a great accent, y'all. I thought it was great.
Well, I like your accent changes once you're somewhere for years, but like his first day, all of a sudden he's just no. He's an Irish man from up north. I don't know. I understand he's been at Notre Dame for a long time. He's a good coach. It just didn't seem like a good fit for LSU to go get Brian Kelly. Great coach, but I mean I understand. I think it's a great move for Brian Kelly though, because I mean what else could he do in Notre Dame? At this point he's the winningest head coach in Notre Dame. He was there for the second longest time. He was there for 12 years. I think there was another coach that was there for 13. And he's been there for that long. And at Notre Dame, he has no national champion to show for it. He's played for one, but got absolutely destroyed by Alabama in his second or third year of coaching at Notre Dame. I just think going to LSU is smart for him because recruiting is going to be easier down in LSU. I know you're competing with SEC, but Notre Dame's recruiting is very restricted because you have to – I read a couple books from Lou Holtz, and he kind of just describes the recruiting process there. And whew, I tell you what, because for how prestigious that school is, like they have to get accepted by the school. I think they have to go through interviews with people when they're recruiting to – like they cannot recruit anybody that the school says that they can recruit. And I just think being in LSU and all the talent that's there, I think it's a great move for him. I just don't understand the move from LSU.
I got to wholeheartedly disagree with all of that. I think it is a great move for LSU and an awful move on Brian Kelly's part.
Oh,
I think Brian Kelly had a great Notre Dame, much to my chagrin, being the Michigan fan I am. The only place I hate more than Notre Dame is Ohio State. But I mean, I think he had a great there. I mean, they are a perennial powerhouse, just like Lincoln Riley at USC. I mean, I don't think LSU is a great fit for him culturally, like you said. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me for him to go down there. I mean, he had a great team this year. They're young. I mean, they're talented. I think they'll probably bounce back next year. Be playing in an independent conference, and I put that in air quotes. I mean, you know, they dictate the schedule. It's usually pretty soft. I mean, they're never going to be any worse than top 10 because they're only going to lose one game a year because their schedule is terrible. All I got to do is win 12 games into the playoffs. Bing, boom, bam. LSU, though, I mean, talking about, you know, the next best available coach on the market. I mean, if these, you know, recruiting restrictions are that tough in Notre Dame, I mean, think of how easy he's going to have it down in the SEC. I mean, the recruiting base in Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi and Florida and Georgia. I mean, it is a rich area for football talent down there. I don't think you'll have any problems bringing guys in. I am going to miss Ed Orgeron. I mean, nothing beats Go Tigers at the end of every game. I think he was an LSU man. I would like to see him stick around, but I think this is a great hire by LSU. Bad decision on Brian Kelly's part.
Yeah, we have a little. I just think he has a better chance. All he wants right now is to win a national championship. And to be honest, I understand. Just a simple question: do you think he has a better chance to win a national championship in Notre Dame or LSU?
Notre Dame, no doubt.
Get over yourself. Notre Dame. Like you kind of just
no doubt.
say the fact. Yeah, here's my thing. I think Notre Dame has way better chance to get into the playoff over LSU, 100%, because they're independent. They don't play anybody. They play maybe one decent team throughout the year, and that's why it's easy for them to get in.
Exactly.
But I think
you have to get in.
I think once they're in, though, they don't ever win it. Like they just go and get. That's not going to happen every year, clearly. But like, I understand going to LSU, going through that conference is hard, very hard. But I mean, this year 2 SEC teams went in there. At some point, when the college football playoff expands, it's going to be easier for 3-4 SEC teams to make it in there. I think that I think it's harder to get into the playoff at LSU, but I think it's easier to win a national championship at LSU. LSU since 2000, LSU's played in 3 national championships, and Notre Dame's played in 1.
I get that. I really do get that. But the problem is, I mean, being in the SEC is a pro and a con because I mean when you're I mean Alabama and Georgia are going to be good every year. Florida's not going to be 6-6 every year. Ole Miss is always good. Arkansas is coming up. Kentucky's getting better. I mean, in any given year, even with the 12-team playoff, 3, maybe 4 of those teams can get in. And Notre Dame's going to make it every year. They just got to win 11 games and they're in. And eventually they're going to find some success in the playoffs. I mean, they're not going to get beat by 50 every year. They
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't. I just completely disagree with you on that. I think it's like I said, for straight up, it is. I think it is easier to get in, which means you're gonna have more chances at a national championship. But I think to actually, because I think if you're at LSU and say you have that one year that you win the SEC like they did with Joe Burrow and like you know that a team that comes to SEC is gonna be a dog. Like they're gonna be good.
I mean, I just talked about how this is a great move for LSU. I get they stunk this year, but I just have a hard time firing a coach 2 years after the greatest college football season ever played. In my opinion, the best college football team ever. Like I just don't know how you decide to part with the guy who literally 2 years ago had the best college football team ever. But I mean, if you're gonna go your separate ways, I think Brian Kelly's a great hire.
And like I said, I think Brian Kelly is, like I said, it is a good move. I'm not saying it's not. For Brian Kelly, I think it's an absolutely amazing idea. I just don't think on LSU's part, he just didn't fit the LSU vibe. Like you said, Ed Orgeron, like that's an LSU guy right there. Like, I don't know. I just couldn't see it. I also, this is my point. Granted, Alabama's been most of these. Since 2000, do you know how many times an SEC team has not played in the championship game?
I'd be willing to venture 2 or 3 times.
That's 20 seasons right there. There only 5 times has an SEC team not played in the national championship.
That's more than I thought.
But still, out of all the other times, 15 times SEC has played in the national championship. I mean, other conferences are definitely not even close. The last time was in 2014 when Ohio State won. Because Alabama has been in it. Alabama has been in every single championship but 2 since the playoffs. That's also kind of crazy.
Hopefully a 12-team playoff will fix that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about we transition into Mario Cristobal, Oregon to Miami?
To be honest, I don't have much opinion from this one. I find it weird that he's leaving Oregon for Miami.
I did too until someone told me he played there, and then it made sense.
Oh, well, he played there. I guess it makes sense going back to your alma mater.
Yeah, I was unaware.
But I mean, Oregon. I mean, for years has been the team you think of in the Pac-12, a team that usually don't. Yeah, this year they lost to Utah. Utah won it, but I mean, you usually see Oregon, the team who's winning the Pac-12 most of the time, and I just don't understand why he's leaving that to go to Miami. It's just kind of crazy.
I mean, it didn't make any sense to me either. I mean, Miami also used to be the premier program in college football. I mean, they kind of tailed off, after the early 2000s. But I mean, like I said, initially, I said that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't know why you do that. But like I said, he played there in college. I mean, it feels very similar to Harbaugh. I mean, Harbaugh had a good situation in Stanford. He went to the NFL, and then he went, hey, I'm going to go take over this 5-7 Michigan team, and now here they are. Granted, longer than all of us Michigan fans would have liked, but I mean, they finally reached the top 6 or 7 years into Harbaugh's tenure. I mean, and maybe Miami's looking at the same thing.
And I think he is going to a crappy ACC conference. So, I mean, granted, Clemson.
It's not tough to succeed in that conference. It is not.
So, I mean,
Wake Forest is good.
I mean, he can easily go in there and turn around and compete with Clemson. But like I said, but speaking of Clemson, too, we can talk about how Brent Venables is replacing the Oklahoma coach, Lincoln Riley.
That's an interesting one because, I mean, Oklahoma for the last however many years has been notorious for being all offense, no defense. And they decided to hire one of the best defensive coordinators in the country in turn. So I don't know if we're looking at a pivot here, Or if they're kind of expecting the offensive dominance to continue, with the recruiting pipelines. I mean, there's more than one coach in a football and on football team. So I mean, maybe some of those assistants are part of the success. But I thought that was interesting. It didn't seem like a great fit to me personally, but I mean, you never know. Brent Venables has also never been a head coach, so this is an interesting job to take over for your first head coaching position.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. I love it for Oklahoma. Because like you said, Oklahoma and the Big 12 aren't notorious for people thinking that, they don't play defense. You bring in a defensive guy, which I like, and for that reason, I really love it, is because they're going to be going to the SEC here in a couple years. What better not to bring a defensive mind where you're going to have to play some better defense when you go to that conference. You're not going to be able to rely on scoring 50 points a game because you're going to the SEC. You might not be able to even put up those amount of points that you have been in the past. I just love the fact that they picked a defensive guy who's had a lot of success in Clemson with his defenses since he went to Clemson. So he got there in 2012, but since 2014 to now, his total defense total defense, the rank in the nation has been top 10 all those years. Scoring defense has been top 10 all but 2 years, and third down defense, like their efficiency, has been top 10 but all but 2 years as well in Clemson. He's just put together some great defenses at Clemson. I think the fact that they're going to be going to the SEC, I love the hire.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, sounds like my dog is getting excited here in the background. Found a ball, huh, Margot? Here, give it up. All right, back in business, everybody. Got my ball back. Rolling out the old foot. I don't think it's a stellar fit. I don't think it's a bad one. I think we'll see how it turns out. Like I said, going to the SEC might not. It's definitely not a bad time to transition to a more defensive-minded head coach. Not a. I don't have a whole lot to say about that one. But another great transition here. Speaking of defense and scoring the football, how about two offensive juggernauts facing off this weekend? Army Navy.
Two offensive juggernauts watching a good old-fashioned 1800s football game right there.
Bring me back to when the football was shaped like a basketball.
Oh man, I don't know what to. I know this is such a historic game. I do watch it every single year just because of the history. I really want to go to Army Navy game, but God, if I'm being honest, you probably love it. By the time halftime hits, I just about over watching the game.
Oh, no, I love it.
I'm really up with the modernness of like passing the ball, spreading things out, quick offenses, like, huddle, no huddle, just kind of going. And like I said, I do watch the game every year, and I do enjoy it. I'm not saying I don't. It's just by the time it hits halftime, I'm like, why isn't anyone throwing the damn ball yet? Or they've only thrown the ball like one or two times, and it's either that pass is completely off, or it's because it's Army Navy, so the one passing touchdown is going to be one that like 75-yard, not really trick plays, but when they faked hand the ball off to three different people in their triple option, and then just put someone up the seam and just, I don't know. I do watch the game. I do like it because it's different, but like I also sometimes I just get stressed out watching it because I just want someone to throw the damn ball. I want it to be quicker pace, not watching triple option after triple option after triple option the whole time.
I think it's entertaining stuff. You gotta love watching the big boys hash it out in the middle, run a little bit of option action. But listen, not a lot to say for me on this one. I think it'll be entertaining like it is every year. I haven't watched it recently, but I think this year I might have to turn it on. It's gonna be. It's gonna be how I was talking about Michigan Georgia being a rock fight. This is gonna be a boulder fight.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, a fun fact is that in this Army-Navy matchup, the past 14 games for the over-under, it has hit the under 14 straight times. 14 straight times that Army-Navy game has hit for total points. And tomorrow's game is 34.5. And I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like the Lions. Like, they got to win at some point, right? And they did last week. the overs got hit at some point, right?
Eventually this should just set the over at 10 points just to.
I'm my prediction tomorrow. The over's gonna hit, and Army's going to win by like 3 touchdowns. I don't know much. I've seen Army play a couple times this year. I haven't watched Navy at all. I don't really know much, but my prediction, also because I'm obligated to say that Army's going to win tomorrow, or else I may be single tomorrow this upcoming weekend.
Go midshipman, right?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the funny part too.
That's for Brenna right there.
I used to be a Navy fan, and here I am an Army fan now. I used to always cheer for Navy. Now that's not allowed anymore. So, go Army, beat Navy.
All right. Well, just for the sake of a little bit of clash here, I'll cheer for the midshipman for you.
Oh, yeah, cheer a little extra hard for me.
All right.
Well, moving forward here, we're gonna go and get into the NFL here. I think the first game I feel like I think we should talk about is the Rams Cardinals. This is a big matchup, especially for their division this week. Say the Rams have this year tend to struggle against some good teams. It seems like they were the hot team right away at the beginning of the season. Everyone thought they were gonna win, and now this might be a statement game for the Rams, don't you think?
I think so. You did mention that they've struggled a little bit this year. Who they struggle against are good teams.
And that's my point exactly. It's like they've beaten who they're supposed to beat, but all the good teams they beat the Bucs. I'll give them that, but they have lost to the Titans. They've lost to the Packers. They lost to the Cardinals earlier this season. Anytime it seems like they play a playoff or even like maybe a Super Bowl hopeful team, they lose.
Yeah, based on what I'm seeing here, they have won 1 game against a team, 2 games against teams over 500. If the Colts are over 500, I think the Colts are over 500. They might be 500 even.
Oh yeah, I think they're right there because the Colts lost this last week. So I think
maybe not.
I think the Colts are a lot better than their record shows. So I still think that it is a quality win. But the thing is, yeah, well, the Colts are 7-6. Actually, they beat the Texans this week, 31 last week.
I mean, the Cardinals have been great. I think they'll win that one. I don't know by how much, but I think they'll win because the Rams have struggled this year. Like I said, I mean, they have that win against Tampa Bay, but I mean, you can write that off to maybe a poor performance by them or maybe a above average performance by Los Angeles, but.
Yeah, no, I foresee the Cardinals. I think they're going to win. I just think this is a game the Rams have to win because I don't think anyone's really putting much respect on them. They went and got Matthew Stafford because they wanted to win now. They wanted to win a Super Bowl this year, next year, and they wanted to win now. So they went and got Matt Stafford. And I just think the way that they've played against Super Bowl hopeful or playoff teams, they just haven't been there and performed. So I think this is a must-win game for the Rams, if you ask me.
Yeah, I would have to say so, especially considering they lost to Arizona earlier in the year, so they'd be 3 games back with 4 games to go, and they wouldn't own the tiebreaker. So they'd essentially have, if they lose this game, they're out of the race for the NFC West. They'll have to get in on the wild card, which they probably will. It's kind of looking like 9-8 or 10-7 will get you a wild card spot in the NFC this year. So I don't think all hope is lost for them on the playoffs if they lose. But if they want to win the division, they got to win this one.
For sure. I think moving on, we got next game we're talking about is the Bills versus the Bucs. We got old man Tom Brady playing against his old divisional, not rival, but the team that he usually played a lot of with the Buffalo Bills. What do you think as an outcome to this game? Who is this game more important for, would you say?
I mean, you gotta say the Bills, right? I mean, they're 7-5. They've been struggling. I mean, kind of same thing with this one. I mean, if they lose this game, that puts them 3 games back with 4 games to go. I mean, you can't have that happen. You got to win this game. You got to inch it a little closer. I don't believe. So I mean, I don't know. I mean.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this game is more important for the Bills, especially after that loss to New England last week. I mean, they were the ones in their the division where they looked like they were going to be the favorites to win this year, and now, like you said, they're already 2 games back. Well, not technically because the Patriots have played one more game. They haven't played their bye yet, but still basically about 2 games back. Like this is a must-win game for the Bills, and the Bills go back and play the Patriots. Actually, after this, I think they go to play them next week, I believe, or a couple weeks from now. The Bills will be playing the Patriots again. So I think this is a must-win game. They lose this, especially if they went in and lost to New England. That's New England's conference. I think it is the New England's conference right now, just for how well they've been playing. But I think it's a must-win game for the Bills.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think for the Rams it's a little more must-win than the Bills personally. But I mean, the Bills got to win this one if they want to have any hope at the division, and especially with the expanded playoffs, it's really nice to win your division.
And I also just say I don't think it's a must-win game for the Bucs because say they go and lose this game, Bucs are 9-4, and these are their next 4 games: the Saints, who are below 500, the Panthers, who are 5-7, below 500, then the Jets, and then they play the Panthers again. They're gonna win. I would almost guarantee 3 of those 4 of their last games,
at least, if not all of them.
So I don't think the Buccaneers have to win this because they're gonna go in there. They're dominating their division. The next closest is the Panthers, who's 5-7. So the Buccaneers, they're gonna be fine. I think this is definitely a must-win game for the Bills.
Okay, I think that's enough about that one. How about Cowboys Redskins? Or my bad. I can say that, by the way. I'm a Native American. The Washington football team.
See, this is an interesting game. This is gonna have some NFC East complications because the Washington Redskins are only down 2 games to the Cowboys. If they go in and win this game, clearly they'll only be 1 game back, and then they play them again in 2 weeks. Do I think the Redskins are going to win the division over the Cowboys? No. I think they could, but I think coming toward the end of the year, they can give Dallas a little scare, especially if they win this game. Because like I said, only being 1 game back, the Cowboys have kind of been struggling a little bit lately. So, and then Washington's been up and down all year. I mean, I think they can test Dallas towards the end of the season here. I don't think Washington will take over and win the division, but if they win this game, I think they can kind of put a little scare into Dallas.
I gotta agree, but if I had to put this one in a must-win column, I think I'd have to give it to Dallas. I mean, you got to be able to beat a team like Washington, and I mean they're scratching and clawing for a good seed here.
Who's that? The Cowboys?
The Cowboys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The thing is, out of all the other conferences, the Packers are 9-3, the Bucs are 9-3, Cardinals are 10-2. At this point, like they'd almost have to win out and have some other teams lose if they want to get a higher seed in the playoff spot here. But I would agree. I think this is a must-win game for the Cowboys. I would maybe say that it is a must-win game for Washington as well. I mean, granted, now that there's 7 teams in the playoff, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are 6-6 around the same area as them for the wild card coming down the last 4 or 5 weeks here, or whatnot.
They are currently tied for 6th, and them and San Francisco are both 6-6 right now, and they'd be the 6 and 7 seeds in the playoffs.
So I think they need to. I think it's both of them. It's a very important game. I think Washington needs to win this just so they can keep. I think if they win this one and then maybe one more, I think they have a good shot to making the wild card, and clearly the Cowboys need to win just so they can have a better seed.
Yeah, I mean, and Washington's hot. I mean, ESPN.com is telling me they're on a 4-game win streak, which I was unaware of.
Yeah, honestly, did not know it. So yeah, they were 2-6.
They were 2-6. They're coming back with a vengeance.
Oh, Taylor Heineke? Tyler Heineke?
I think it's Taylor. All I know is that he's the man. That's all you got to know.
Oh yeah, no argument from here over here, brother. Well, moving forward, I think this is kind of a cool thing we're going to maybe start adding into our podcast here. We're going to have upsets of the week. So where Jacob and I will give you guys who we think has the best shot to be upset. It could be we're gonna probably stick with football for right now, but moving forward, we might go NBA or college basketball. But just moving forward, I think we're gonna do this at least once a week. Jacob, let me hear them. Who do you think is the team that's most susceptible to get upset this week?
I think the team that is most susceptible to be upset this week are my Seahawks against Houston.
Against Houston.
The 2-10 Houston Texans. This game is going to be ugly. I was looking before we started here. Houston and Seattle have the 2 worst offenses in the league and 2 of the top 5 worst defenses in the league. And Seattle's favored by over 7 points. That's not going to be that's not going to be over a touchdown win. I mean, and it's going to be close. When a game's that close, it can go either way. I said Houston's at home. Seattle hasn't been playing well. They did beat San Francisco last week, but I mean, Seattle has tended to be San Francisco's kryptonite lately. So Seattle, the Rams, and the Niners play a perpetual game of rock paper scissors against each other every season. They just can't all seem to beat. They all just beat each other in a triangle. So I'm gonna say Houston. Right now, with how bad both of them are. Anything can happen. Seattle's got to go on the road. I'm still not convinced Russ is 100% healthy. They're out Jamal Adams. It looks bleak for Seattle, in my opinion. And Houston is bad, but they've won a couple games. They might win their 3rd this weekend.
Yeah, I think I put that as my I thought about that game. I don't think it's the most. I'm going with the hot Lions after their 1 win they had last week.
They were my number 2 option.
I'm going with the Lions this week to go into Colorado and beat the Broncos. I think the Lions, at some point they had to win. They won last week. They haven't played awful throughout the season. They have a lot of losses. These are their last losses. So before they beat the Vikings, they lost to the Bears by 2, the Browns by 3, tied with the Steelers, and then they had some bad ones. But then they've lost to the Vikings by 2, Bears by 10, Ravens by 2. I mean, they've had a lot of close games. I don't think their record actually.
This team is much better than what their record shows, which is why I don't know if you remember this. Remember you and Alex asked me in our group chat like 2 weeks ago when they started 10-1, and I think Alex said, how many games are the Lions going to win this year? And I said, they're going to win 3. And I remember which one of you, but one of you told me I was crazy, and I said, no, sir. These guys are going to win 3 of their next 6 games. Mark my words.
I don't think you said 3. I think you put a bigger number up there for it.
I'm sticking with 3. They can win 2 of these last 5, easy peasy. They'll win at least 3 games. They are not the worst team in the NFL.
And that's why I have picked them. And that'd be my pick. I think the Broncos, sorry, Alex, I think they're the team that, to my opinion, that have the best chance of being upset this week. I do think it's going to be the Lions. And I'm not saying I think they're going to go in there and win. I just think the Broncos are definitely the team that have the best chance of being upset this week. And speaking of the Lions, I'm going to move on to my 14 betting picks because we all know that I am just a sports betting legend around here.
We got Jeopardy James around here just raking in the cash, Benjamins.
Ever since that casino in Belcourt opened up sports betting, it's just been a new life for me in North Dakota here. And then the Vegas trip about a month ago, oof. It's what I love to do. If I could quit any job in my life and do something, I'd become a professional sports bettor if I had the money for it. Waiting for some investments, some people to invest in me to sports bet. But moving forward to that, I have 2 locks this week that I believe that are complete locks. You make them, they're going to win because we all know that I'm never wrong when it comes to sports betting.
Impossible.
My first lock is the Lions. They are plus 10 against the Broncos. And I'm not even just going to say, I know I just picked them that I think they might beat the Broncos, but I'm not picking them for the money line. I'm picking them to cover that 10-point spread. I think lock it right now, 10-point spread Lions against the Broncos. My second is a money line one. and that's for the Bengals to beat the 49ers. Bengals are at home. The Bengals offense, they've been at times looked like a really great team this season, at other times pretty bad. I think the Bengals are going to go in there, and I think they're going to beat down on the 49ers. My two locks this week, plus 10 Lions, money line Bengals. My two locks. If anyone from North Dakota, I know online sports betting isn't legal, go find yourself up in Belcourt this weekend. I'll be there. We can make some bets together.
That sounds like a grand time with the North Dakota version of Jeopardy, James. I gotta agree with you. I have three locks. I have the Lions plus 10. That's the easy one. I have Raiders plus 10 against the Chiefs. If anyone remembers from the last episode, the magical coin, all hail the coin, do have the Chiefs winning, but I don't think it'll be by 10. The Chiefs aren't as good as they've been. The Raiders are an even 500 team. 10 points is way too many. Take the Raiders plus 10. And I'm also going to go with Houston plus 7.5 on Seattle. So I went with all underdogs to cover the spread. I think those spreads are much too big for, the teams they're playing. Except I think I wouldn't fault you for hitting the money line in any of those three, but I think covering the spread is a pretty good option on all those.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing I can't believe that Seattle is an 8.5-point favorite against the Texans.
Yeah, that's way too many. That's going to be at most a 5-point game.
I just think it's one of those things where Seattle has the name. They've been good in the past, so they're just like, well, it's Seattle, so we have to give them respect. They're not actually as bad as their record says, right? So then they go on there.
They might be worse than their record says, to be honest with you.
Well, and granted, the Chiefs have came around, but like with Chiefs beginning of the year when they were terrible, every single game they went into, they were still favored by like 14 points every game they went into. Granted, they've turned their season around, but like that's just the thing. I just think the name. I think they're the Seattle Seahawks, and what their past has been, they're just like they're better, or we got to put some respect on their name. So I think this is a little bit too high of a spread, but. Well, I think to end the show, I think we need to move into the NBA. Talking about how Steph Curry is about to pass Ray Allen for all-time three-pointers.
And he is roughly half the games. This guy is unreal.
Yeah, he has 10 threes away from the record. It took Ray Allen 1,300 games to get to his record. Steph Curry has played in currently 786 games. So not a little over half, but almost taking Steph Curry half the amount of games for him to pass Ray Allen. That is just bonkers. And also I have another stat here too that says that when he probably breaks the record, the Warriors play tomorrow, has hit 10 threes, who knows happened that he will have taken 500 fewer three-point attempts than Ray Allen as well once he breaks this record.
I mean, you can say that the only reason that Steph is breaking this record is because of how the game has changed, but the fact that he's taken that many fewer threes and in that fewer games and is still going to crush his record, I mean, this guy is just purely a better shooter than Ray Allen was, no doubt.
Well, no, it's crazy. like that's what I said. You could say the game changed, but he's played because the game's changed. Yeah, it's taken that less games. I guarantee in 10 years from now, there's going to be a couple other people that pass Ray Allen as well. But the fact that he took that many less three-point attempts than him, it's just crazy. Do you think that on the game tomorrow against 76ers, do you think he's dropping 10 to beat the record?
We were talking before, and I said, no way, the Sixers are way too good on defense, but then I remembered his name is Steph Curry, and Steph Curry can drop 12 threes on anyone.
Oh, he can have himself a night any night. That's for sure. I don't think he'll get it against the 76ers, but I think the next game I don't know. I think their next game is, I'm looking at December 13th against the Pacers. I think that's the night he hits it. It's a little sad. It's an away game. I think you'd love to see him hit that at home. Make it a little couple more, make it more special for him. Well, one quick question before we get going here. Would you like to say that Steph Curry is the best shooter of all time?
If your answer to that is no, you don't know anything about basketball.
Okay. I agree. I think he is. I mean, just pure shooting. I'm not talking about anything else, just pure shooting.
And I'm not talking scoring. I'm talking just shooting the basketball, anything but the layup
Yeah,
or a hook shot, anything within 5 feet.
yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so I mean, while we're on that, just to end things here, just spur of the moment, who would you say are the five best shooters ever? If Steph's number one, who are the next few?
We're just talking about shooters, not scoring.
Shooting, not scoring, just shooting the basketball.
Oof. I don't know. I'm saying clearly, Steph Curry's number one. After that, I'm just gonna say names. I don't. It's not the order of them. I'm putting him there. I think you have to put Ray Allen in there. I think you do. I mean, he's just was a before Steph Curry. It was Ray Allen. Everyone looked up to Ray Allen when it came to shooting. Um, Honestly, I know he's been injured a lot, and this might be controversial to say. I think Klay Thompson. I mean, just look what he's done. I mean, he has the 3-point record in a single game with 14. Like, that's just completely ridiculous. I'm trying to think back on some players back in the day. I don't really know, but from what I see, I'm also very biased about this. I'd like to say Larry Bird. Just granted, I never watched back then, but from what I've seen and stuff like that, also I love that guy. I'd like to say Larry Bird. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I could think of a fifth one. I think there's just too many people that in my head that I think I could have put at five, but I think if I gave you four right there, it's Klay Thompson, Ray Allen, Larry Bird.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with Larry Bird. I think on okay, I'm gonna put a slight change on my statement earlier. If you told me that Larry Bird was the best shooter ever, I'd maybe give you that. But anyone other than Larry Bird or Steph Curry, absolutely not. I'm gonna throw a Dirk. I'm gonna throw a Dirk. The big man, definitely the best tall shooter ever.
Oh,
Dirk.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, names have got coming to mind. You got Dirk, Ray Allen.
I mean, you could maybe work in there, like maybe Reggie Miller.
Yeah. I mean, he was record holder before. I mean, it's tough to put some of those older guys in there because they didn't shoot the ball as much as these guys do now. It was a little more low post game. I mean when Michael Jordan was drafted, I mean they said that's stupid. You can't win without a 7-foot center. I mean, the game has just changed a lot over the years. I mean, I think it's more natural that the better shooters of all time probably play now because I mean the game is much more shooting centered. The three ball has came in. Oh, you know who? I mean, I think you got to throw Melo out there. Not a great 3-point shooter, but I mean that guy's. I mean the fadeaway, the turnaround jumper, the mid range game. I mean he's pretty stroke, great shooter. I think you'd have to include Carmelo Anthony in that conversation.
Well, I think if I did put my fifth there, I think I would say be Reggie. I think my top would be Steph Curry is number one. Then after this, I don't know. Like I said, Larry Bird, Klay Thompson, Ray Allen, Reggie Miller. That'd be my five best shooters of all time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it seemed. I mean, I said, I mean, you could probably think of maybe up to 10 guys if if you really sat down and got after it about who you could put in the top five. But for me, Steph is obvious.
Oh, for sure. It's not even close. But, well, I just think to wrap it up here, like I said, I think the one thing that's happening this weekend, the best thing that's happening this weekend, is that Tiger Woods is going to be back in action. Granted, it's just a tournament with this kid, but oh my, it's always a great weekend if you can see Tiger Woods stroking it on the links.
And if we're lucky, we might get Sunday red.
Oh, if we're lucky enough, I think this might be just all we see Tiger Woods do now. I don't know if he'll get back. It didn't sound like in an interview a couple weeks ago that he wasn't for sure positive about him being optimistic about him coming back. But I think it's just
he got that last major. He won the Masters one more time. If he didn't play in another tournament ever, I would still peg him as the best golfer ever. I don't think he has anything to prove at this point.
Oh, I agree with you. It's just amazing to see that man healthy again. Maybe not fully healthy, but back on the golf course.
Love to see it. Great way to end the episode, I think.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't get better than Tiger Woods. But, well, I said thank you everybody for listening to the Lone Bros podcast. I think in a couple weeks here we might be changing the name. Jacob, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's 100% chance we'll be coming up with the name change, but given how little planning went into this, I mean, we're literally recording on a Zoom call. I mean, we don't nothing fancy. We just kind of let it rip. So we might upgrade the setup a little bit one of these days, come up with a new name. But for now, Lowing Bros will stay. We'll think of something better in the future. Don't you guys worry.
We'll have to figure something out, or even suggestions. We'll take suggestions too. But like I said, next week we'll probably be looking at another podcast. Probably I'd assume Monday night, at the latest probably Tuesday, but probably Monday, and then same thing next week. Probably two podcasts on Monday and Friday, and hope you guys can give it a listen.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe a guest or two one of these days.
We'll have to get going on that as well.
Well, all right. I think I had a good time today again. I don't know about you, but
of course I did. I mean, my answers were right and a lot of yours were wrong, unless you're agreeing with me.
I mean, you've never been wrong. We clarified that, on Mr. Jeopardy James over here. So
no, yeah. If you guys ever need some sports betting tips, just ask me. I'm definitely not a pro, but North Dakota, I'm probably considered one.
All right, I think we'll end it there, everyone. Have yourselves a good weekend and take it easy, everyone.